Well, we'll be done with the SOI hopefully shortly after that. Then then we'll be at mid-term budget. I'll start looking at general plan policies and see what you guys want to implement citywide in terms of programs and policies as part of the budget.
So when are we going to be done with it?
Well, in theory, you're never done.
Yes, sir. One issue.
Yeah, those types of approvals should be done
Possible
sometime
that I may
say April, May,
vacation
latest.
into there.
For
My
the
vacation.
SOI.
You can just pay me out.
Hey, yeah.
Well, you can say
Okay.
That's the sphere of influence, yeah.
I had called a calculator.
And that finishes out our sphere, we've got our land use and everything, and then it's a matter of, okay, when do you want to start annexations, and then it'll be development driven.
It's actually about 3 days. Okay.
maybe you can do a little, and maybe you have, and I can.
We'll work on that.
No, I haven't had a chance to do
But the thing's healthy.
well, I have. It's been a series of
I think
circumstances.
they missed my bonus thing in there, though. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add it on the bottom.
Local one is 10% of the cash reserve.
You built it up?
Looks like it's got a stapler on. Oh, brown, oh. Any kind of a brown.
Not my phone. We get some good photos. You know, get down this one. Send me this profitability reports every once in a while.
Is that your alarm? Oh, you can stop.
If we could come to order, please. We've reconvened from closed session. I'll ask our attorney if there's any.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. There's no reportable action out of closed session this evening.
Okay, thank you. We will now open the regular city council meeting. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Payne. Here. Claire.
Here.
Haynes.
Here.
Meredith.
Here.
Shelton.
Here.
And we do have two council members teleconferencing tonight. Councilmembers Claire and Haynes are both out of town, and we have them on the phone.
So I'd like to add before we get started that if both of you council members will remind me, in case I'm used to working with one of you teleconferencing, but I have two tonight, so feel free to say, hey, Mayor, I got a comment, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence. And I just got word as you're standing that if you would please remember Eric Bell. He was one of our Junior Warriors coaches. He was killed in a motorcycle accident. And unfortunately, he leaves behind a wife, 3 children, and his wife is expecting. So if you would please remember the family, I would greatly appreciate it. We have the scouts that are going to come in, I believe.
Yes.
Troop number... I'm sorry, Cub Scout Pack number 84. If you come forward, please. Thank you.
Please remove all non-scouting headgear. Color guard attention. Color guard advance. Prepare to post colors. Post colors. Salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Thank you, Scout. If we could have the video statement, please.
This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel, on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.saxmetrocable.tv this Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the record.
Thank you. Is there any agenda approval, additions, and/or any deletions?
Mr. Mayor, I think that Public Works would like to pull item I-4.
Yes, I'd like to pull in its entirety. I'm happy to announce I-4,
Okay, thank you.
the contract with Odyssey. We've made terms with the contractor, and I believe we'll successfully complete the project.
Okay, thank you. Any other items, council?
Sorry, with me?
Which one, Don?
No, I thought you asked if that was all right with council.
It is with me.
It's good with me, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Public comment?
Under Government Code, Section 54954.3, members of the audience may address the council on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during consideration of the item. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk prior to addressing the council. We request that you state whether you live within the Galt city limits or the county area. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker. John Slaughterback?
John Slaughterback, I live in the city of Galt. First, I'd like to commend the chief of police. I've been reading some good reports in the paper about him and his officers, and I think that's great. I could myself could see a difference in service since the new chief has taken over, so I think he needs a big hand for that. And also, I'd like to say that Jason, I think, will make a great city manager. I've seen him in action a couple of times, and I like the way he talks, and I don't see where he should have a problem here tonight in this council. I do have some other items I would like to discuss. Meredith and Councilman Meredith and Lodi News Sentinel, they had a editorial. It was great editorial about one of your recommendations or transparency in government, and it didn't go anywhere. And now it seems like every other meeting or so you have a different agenda, another idea. I'm a little bit confused on where you're going with all this. I don't agree with I'll get into that when it comes up on the agenda report, but you had a good, the city of Lodi had a good editorial about this, and now it's disappeared. I don't understand why. But I will comment on your agenda item too. The other thing I'd like to say, the Lodi News Sentinel had an article in it. Al Baldwin said he hopes meetings will be more positive with the new procedures, and I have been to many of these meetings that have been very disruptive and abusive. The only way I could comment to that, it could be misconstrued, and I would like to set the record straight on that. Dick Smith's Political Action Committee opened the box, Pandora's box. No one complained about Dick Smith's Political Action Committee when he was in here in council. They planted up a lot of signs against Raboy, the prior council meeting, ad paper. So Dick Smith opened the box, and anybody that's affiliated with him or has been is open to criticism. So he opened the box, so I don't see why we complain about it now. One other thing, right away for a minute, I would like to mention is a total of $408,000 in Regional Water Control Board fines. I would hope the city would get things under control. I know there's a lot of excuses why we have $408,000 fines, but I'm hoping that in the future the city will control what we do and we won't see any more fines like this. I know that every time the subject comes up, we try to use another city as an example. Well, look at them, they got fined. But the fact is, they dropped the ball too. There is cities that don't get these fines, and I could name some cities off, but that would serve no purpose other than there are cities that don't get fines. So something happened, and we caused this. Somehow or another, we had a problem, and I don't want to get into blaming anybody because I don't know exactly all what happened. I got my opinion of what happened. But let's hope we don't get no more fines. $408,000 in fines, and we don't seem to have a problem when it comes to increasing utility rates on the citizens' Galt. They're going to have to pay this now. Thank you.
Tom, before you go,
Just want to make.
I'll answer your question. The editorial that you read about the transparency issue, I think it was pretty clear about the goal of having that online around the first of the year. That's still our objective, to get that online by the first of the year. One of the major obstacles has been trying to find a way to do this with a minimal impact to the city budget. You know, we don't want to have a city employee that has to regularly update a web page. We don't want to have to pay to alter our web page at all. So we're trying to find a cost-effective way to put all those expenditures online. But
well, sounds good. Nothing was ever mentioned after that, and I didn't understand why, because even the Lodi editorial thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, and I think it does say in the editorial that the goal was to have it online by the first of the year. So that's still what we're working towards.
That's pretty great. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other comments?
That's all for now.
Okay.
Everything else is under certain items.
Okay. So we'll go to the information.
One.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
Speaking of that.
Tracy Groves, City of Galt. Andrew had a town hall meeting where the topic was what to do when the paycheck stops. And Andrew asked me to help, and I was glad to. It sounded like a great idea. I love the paperwork he got. The information was really good. As soon as the article started hitting the newspapers with my phone number in it, thank you very much, Andrew, people started calling, and I was really excited about the people that were interested in the information, but a little dismayed by the amount of people that wanted the information but didn't want to come that night. Some of them didn't want to tell me why. Some of them said work, whatever. Finally, I got people to start telling me why they didn't want to come, and it was because they didn't want everybody in town to know that they were in that position. And we did encourage a lot, and I honestly thought the meeting would be just people that were there to either offer the help or to seek the help. I was a little dismayed by the people that I know that were there just to check it out, and that's the kind of thing that was keeping people away. I think we only gave out about 33 to 35 pamphlets that night. Is that about right?
Yeah.
But I think in between the phone calls and the meeting, we've actually now given out about 100. It's been interesting trying to connect with these people to give them the information. So the reason I wanted to talk about it is I wish that Galt could somehow find a way to get the information out there to people where they don't have to come out and present themselves in public that, I'm in dire straits, I'm having trouble with my mortgage, I can't pay my utilities, because that information he got was incredible. And there's more information out there. It's sad that Galt citizens are a little afraid of what their neighbor will think. I sat next to Rachel for a few minutes, and there was one young couple that we kind of looked at, and they looked like normal, middle-class, happy couple, except for you could see the stress on their face, and you know that they were there because they really, really needed the help. So I was hoping maybe you guys could, you know, get your brains together and see if you can come up with a way that maybe we can, you know, I don't know if pamphlets about this stuff at the library would help, or if there's somehow that we can get a little bit, I know that not everybody has computers. It's a little too much information to put all of it in the newspaper, but it's good information. I think our citizens really, really need the help. I mean, if we've gotten 100 so far, I think there's going to be more. So think about it, and if you haven't looked at the packet, look at it. It's incredible. I've also found out, and I'll get more information, a woman in Stockton was telling me that for some people there's a program where you can get your toilets replaced for free. There's another one where you can get your refrigerators. I think that's more aimed towards senior citizens, but it's not an income-based thing. So I'll try to find out more. So, but thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other speakers, or those are on topics?
Yes, everything else
Oh,
is on
okay.
topic.
We could have the consent items, please.
Okay, the consent calendar consists of item number 1, approval of the minutes of the special and regular council meetings of August 20th, 2009. Number 2, approval of the City of Galt warrants. Number 3, proposed ordinance 2009-15, amending the title of Chapter 9.12 of the Galt Municipal Code pertaining to the curfew at city parks. And that's an adoption of the ordinance. Number 4, adoption of the ordinance 2009-16, amending section 14.10.100 of the Galt Municipal Code pertaining to maintenance of sanitary sewer connections. Number 5, playground ADA compliance improvement projects. Number 6, award of engineering services contract for the Golden Heights Water Treatment Plant expansion Phase 3 project. And number 7, new Measure A transportation capital allocation and expenditure contracts.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion or comments? None? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Next item, we have a presentation. Did you want to read it? Oh, okay.
She's
So
got to
can I
come
go
up
over
there.
here? Local hiring ordinance, Councilmember Andrew Meredith.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we're going to need to dim the lights just a little bit because some of the contrasting colors are really bright.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Andrew, can you speak up a little bit, because I can't quite hear everything.
Sure, I'm really sick, so I'm struggling to
Oh, okay.
talk, but I'm going to be as loud as I can. I think I've got the hog flu, maybe. I'm hoping not. I'm going to go get my shot tomorrow. But this is our presentation on the City of Galt local hiring ordinance. I'm going to give a little background on what led me to bring this here to the City of Galt. According to recent reports, including one published in the Sacramento Bee, the City of Galt has experienced a dramatic increase in unemployment numbers since the national economy collapsed. One of the labor force submarkets that has experienced the highest upswing in unemployment rates is in the construction field. Many Galt residents that work in the construction industry are currently unemployed, or they are traveling long distances to find work outside of the Sacramento region. Many families in Galt forced to cope with a loss of income due to unemployment have seen their financial future ruined through home foreclosure, automobile repossession, and/or bankruptcy. In Galt households where the breadwinner is forced to commute long distances to find work, youth are oftentimes left unsupervised, which can lead to many detrimental issues like higher dropout rates and crime rates. As elected officials, we are directly tasked with finding ways to improve employment opportunities within the community. The residents of Galt that we represent should expect more from their leaders than merely showing up for council meetings twice a month and casting routine votes, or finding new ways to hand out certificates of recognition. Galt residents need to see their leaders take bold action to reverse the effects of the economic slump that has eroded local home prices and personal wealth. Residents of Galt will no longer accept the typical government responses to problems like the ones that Galt is facing, which is to just bury our heads in the sand and pretend that the problem doesn't exist. Therefore, the time for Galt to adopt policies that actually create local jobs is now. With substantial public works projects on the horizon for the city of Galt, one of the best ways to inject money into the local economy is to ensure that Galt residents have a valid opportunity to work on the projects that their tax dollars finance. As established by federal and state guidelines, public works projects are legally required to be constructed at prevailing wages. The possibility of attaining a prevailing wage job for local residents could mean more than $80,000 in personal income per worker being injected into the Galt economy, which will provide direct benefit to local businesses that rely on residents spending their hard-earned money here in Galt. In order to improve the lives of many members of our community, I am proposing that Galt adopt a local ordinance that provides substantial opportunities for Galt residents to work in Galt, earning livable wages. Here's a breakdown of the plan that I'm proposing. The ordinance that I'm proposing is very similar to one recently adopted in Stockton that requires 50% of the entire construction workforce on public works projects of $100,000 or larger to be comprised of Stockton residents. In recognition of the significantly smaller labor pool in Galt, I have altered the ordinance to be more representative of the Galt community. The Galt local hiring ordinance will require Galt residents to be employed on new projects, either funded directly through public dollars or benefiting from City of Galt subsidies in excess of $50,000 in correlation to the following scale. For project dollar amounts of $50,000 to $125,000, I'm proposing that 50% of the construction workforce on that job be comprised of Galt residents. For $125,001 to $250,000, I'm proposing 30% guideline. For $250,001 and above, I'm proposing 20%. For crafts that require state certification, since this is more difficult niche market labor-wise to find, I'm proposing a 20% requirement. The labor requirements presented are certainly attainable within the community. For instance, the California Department of Apprenticeship Standards list of certified electricians available online lists 48 certified electricians in the 95632 zip code. However, in the event that project size makes meeting the requirements set forth in my proposal unreasonable, contractors can show that a good faith effort was put forth to find Galt workers and still be in compliance with this ordinance. In order to show a good faith effort, contractors would be required to perform at least 6 recruitment activities like posting visible notices of job vacancies, advertising open positions in local papers, posting the opening with the Employment Development Department, etc. In the hopes that this ordinance allows many young Galt workers to begin careers as apprentices in specific trades, I have also included language that requires apprentices on our applicable projects to be enrolled in state-accredited programs that offer a true ladder to success. My goals are defined in this proposal by stating that apprentices be enrolled in viable apprenticeship programs that graduate at least 60% of their enrolled apprentices. This provision ensures that our local workers classified as apprentices will have the opportunity to learn a trade in its entirety and be given a reasonable opportunity to attain journeyman status during the course of their career. In conclusion, my proposal offers a true win-win situation for the residents and businesses of Galt. Creating more local jobs can help stabilize home prices, improve Galt's overall crime rate, and even provide additional expendable income that will surely trickle into our local shops and stores. If Galt decides to walk away from this proposal, it could send a message to the community that creating local jobs is not a priority of the Galt City Council. It is my hope that Council will review this draft proposal tonight and allow the Public Works Director, the City Manager, the City Attorney, and myself to make any necessary changes to the document over the next several weeks with an ultimate goal of adoption on December 1st of 2009. With that, I'd be happy to address any questions or concerns.
Okay, before we ask for questions, I don't know if you know, but we have several people that would like to speak. Council, in the past, when we had a presentation or one of the members or staff has put together a proposal, we usually take the comments from the public. Did you want to continue to do that before?
I agree with you, Mayor. I agree.
Okay. I'll have Liz. If you just give me a moment, please. I don't know if that was the order you had them in.
Oh,
We have several speakers.
yes. Are we ready for that?
Yes, we are.
Okay, Al Baldwin.
I'm Al Baldwin. I live in the city of Galt, and the character in the city of Galt is growing better and better each day. And I want to applaud Andrew Meredith for bringing up this proposal. I think his heart is in it, and I think he wants to do something for Galt that will help Galt. There was some questions I have on it that you might consider, and I don't need answers on a few questions I have tonight, but it's just something to think about. And I guess I'll just say it real quick. There's a couple of paragraphs in here, and one of them was number 2 under the city scope and goals in job classifications, where state certification is required by the state of California for journeymen and level employees and contractors, and so on. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the question is, do they need to be in a union? Can non-union workers get any kind of certification without being in a union?
Absolutely. The certified electricians in the city of Galt, I think I said there were 48 in the 95632 zip code, and only 11 of them are union electricians. So.
Oh, that's great. I just, some people might think you have to be in a union to get a job. I don't think you necessarily have to be. But there's one other thing, too, that you might want to consider, taking a poll in Galt. I think the city should know this, or they can get the information of how many carpenters there are and how many electricians, and maybe other trades, too, in Galt that we have. I don't think it's impossible to get this information, because on all the statistics that I read, sometimes you always see this listed some way or another. So I'd like to know if there's any way you could do that, so we know where we're going and what path we can take.
I can answer that real fast too, Al. I put in a call to the Employment Development Department. They have a labor market survey analysis department. I think that's what it's called. The girl that covers our area has been out of town for the last week. I have a message left to her, so I'm hoping in the next week or so we'll get the information. It's going to be broken down by subclassification. How many are out of work in Galt? How many are working? I think we'll definitely have it by the December 1st meeting, but she just couldn't provide it by tonight.
Well, that's great. These are just questions that I'm trying to help you with and get it going, because it does sound pretty good. A bidder or contractor, this is D, a good faith effort. A bidder contractor who fails to meet the goal of having 50% of his workforce by residents of Galt shall nevertheless be deemed to have made a good faith effort. And I'm with that all the way. A good faith effort is good to see. But will this hamper any of the bids for Galt? Because they have to do this. Could we be losing business or being charged maybe more by everybody, not by a few, just overall, because they have to spend time maybe even training some of the people that are doing the work, their journeymen or whatever it is, to help train them? I have no idea. I'm not in this profession. I'm not in this business. I'm just bringing this up as something to question to help promote this thing.
Yeah, those are valid concerns, Al. Those were issues that were raised in the city of Stockton. I think they did a survey of other cities in California that adopted similar ordinances. And the survey that I read, and Greg can refresh my memory, but I don't think that any of the cities had actually seen detrimental bid results. Stockton's is obviously so new that they haven't had projects that they can evaluate that off of. But, just the market in general right now, work is so scarce. Contractors are always adaptive. They'll find ways to work with the ordinance and still bid the work.
Well, that's true. It's hard to get a job. I know that now. The city website, could we use that to promote this in any way, or at least give information on certain questions or frequently asked question type of thing, and maybe the top 20 questions or something, and it could be answered in that respect. As we go down, advertising positions on newly created City of Galt Public Works job line, and I'm just saying that if it's there, we could put it on the city website maybe. Because some people do have computers, and the library does have access to them, and they can get them. Other word of mouth would be helpful too. The required documentation, who's going to be checking all this? Because if the city does it, we're going to have to pay out some bucks for that, I think, or just put another load on somebody's back to do even more work than what they're doing now. And I know we're challenged in some areas right now.
Well,
So, you know.
I'm not going to lie to you, Al. It's going to create a little more paperwork for our Public Works Department to take care of. And Greg probably doesn't want to hear that because he's already short-staffed in his department. But, you know, the ultimate goal of this thing, I think, is to help Galt residents improve their lives. So.
Well, Greg's been, Halliday's been a great person to do extra work when he can, and sometimes he does get overburdened, I'm sure, but he does come through with some great results when he has to. Is this going to be an ordinance just for Galt only? I mean, Lodi maybe doesn't have it, maybe Wilton doesn't have it, Elk Grove, I don't know if they have something like this. Does anyone besides Stockton in our immediate area have something like this going so we can look at them?
There's no proposals that have officially been made, but there are other cities that are, I'll just say they're very close to Galt that are looking at this ordinance also.
The idea is great, and I always thought Galt was doing this anyway, but probably not. I mean, it's just, it seems like a gimme anyway, that they should at least try, and I think it was brought up about a year ago or so that we should look into local help if we can get it, but, you know, I don't know how far that went. There's people that live in the county that have a Galt zip code, I believe. Are they going to be included? Because the way you check it, you go by zip code, but then again, you should live in the city, so that might be a conflict a little there of how to do it.
There was some conflicting language in the rough draft that I put together. I originally proposed this as the sphere of influence that we've adopted, that to be the boundary line. I think there might be some complications due to the zip code issue, so that's something that we're going to work out over the next 30 days.
And the compliance, would that be Greg Halliday's department also? Who's doing it, who's not doing it, and who checks it over, and the dots the I's, and who doesn't have the right amount of people, 50% if it's a big one or whatever?
Well, you know, one of the benefits of being a small city compared to the city of Stockton, when they looked at adopting this ordinance, they're talking about hundreds of public works projects that take place on like a 2-year basis. In the city of Galt, we're talking about a handful a year. So I do think it's going to add some burden to the Public Works Department. But I'll tell you, Greg Halliday, he does an amazing job with all of the tasks that are laid down to him. He's one of the best department heads that we have here in the city of Galt. I have full confidence that his department will be able to handle this time. Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping so, and with possibly a new city manager, maybe there'll be some extra shortcuts we can take so he can make room for it in all these departments. I believe he's a miracle worker. That's about it, yes.
Yes, Al, do you have questions that you would like to leave? Because otherwise,
well, I was doing this,
but
Andrew is answering them as I was saying them, so, you know, the only question is
well, if you have something, why don't you just, you know, bring it forward? I think that would.
Yeah, well, it's just, when is this going to all happen if you vote it in? Is it immediate? That's all. So.
Thank you, Al.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
John Slaughterback?
Well, Al asked some good questions there. That's pretty good, Al. John Slaughterback, I live in Galt again. I don't think, Andrew, you researched this from a contractor's point of view. There's a lot of things wrong with this. When we had a job here of $1 million for air conditioner job, I wondered why we didn't get contracts here in the local area, and I went and asked the air conditioner, talked to the owner of the air conditioner place here in Galt. He said, it's too hard, you can't get anything. He said, wouldn't do me no good to put an application, put a bid in. He said there's certain qualifications, certain numbers the state's got to, I don't know. He just went on and said it doesn't do good. I went to Lodi and I asked Henderson Brothers, I talked to the owner there. He said it wouldn't do no good. It cost me $8,000 just to file the paperwork. He said, and then I wouldn't get the bid. He said I'd be out $10,000. These contractors hire people that are professionals when they come here. We can't just take somebody who's going to dig ditches or landscape. Now, I could see landscape work, maybe you might do it, but these contractors come here with professionals, and they're not going to lay off their professionals and say, well, I'm going to go look for employees here in Galt. This whole thing sounds crazy to me. I don't even know why you brought this up. Maybe somebody else can see something in it, but to me it doesn't look like a good idea. There's a lot of problems with it, mainly from a contractor's point of view.
Well, it's all about creating local jobs, John.
Well, how are you going to create jobs? It's got to be professionals that these people bring with them.
We've got them here in town.
You think we got them?
I think we got them.
Well, I hope we do.
On the issue of the heating and air conditioning contractors, I'll answer your question, John. The contractor that you're talking about here in town, or the one in Lodi, the issues that they're talking about paperwork, those are public works jobs in general. So the message that you're getting from that contractor is that he doesn't bid public works jobs, and there's a lot of contractors that don't because of the paperwork that the state.
Well, what kind of jobs are we talking about?
Jobs that are financed with public money. That's what qualifies as a public works job. And there are a lot of forms, and there's a lot of paperwork included in doing public works projects.
But it will hinder. It's going to make more expense for bids. People are going to be less, and when they do bid, they're going to have the higher bid. Probably the ones that can make it. You're going to eliminate bids with this. I don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, John.
Okay, Nicole Gehring.
Good evening, members of the Galt City Council and Mayor. My name is Nicole Gehring with Associated Builders and Contractors. I'm the Government Affairs Director. We're a nonprofit construction trade association. We have contractors that have done work in the city of Galt. We've got over 500 general contractors and subs in the Northern California area that do public works construction. And wanted to know why our organization ended up having to find out about this proposal in the newspaper. I mean, typically we should be, we don't necessarily oppose local hiring ordinances, but we would like to, sit at the table and be able to help craft language that makes it fair and competitive for everyone. I see on some of these numbers, projects 50,000 to 125,000, 50% of the contractors need to be from Galt. I'm kind of wanted to know where you got some of these numbers from, what your scientific basis was for this.
Just to clarify, it's not 50% of the contractors, it's
50% of their labor force, yes, correct. That lives in, sorry, I misspoke. But anyways, these questions are of concern. If, like the gentleman said before, contractors are going to have to lay off their own workforce in order, their professionals that they've hired, their team, in order to hire people in Galt, that's great if they are skilled and qualified. So I'm hoping that the city can do some surveys and make sure that those numbers are in fact here. That would really be a good thing for Galt. Also, had a question about the definition of a viable apprenticeship program. That's different than the state approved definition. That's state approved apprenticeship programs. I've got a list here of state approved apprenticeship programs from the DAS, from the DIR website, and if you look through here, you're saying an average of 60% graduates. If you look through any of these papers, I mean, all of these programs that are state approved, these apprenticeship programs, many of these programs don't even meet these goals. So these goals here are very, very high that you would be setting for 60% of graduates.
What do you think would be more reasonable?
I would say that has graduates from programs, that has graduates, because if, for example, a resident at the Galt High School, if he decided to go into one of these apprenticeship programs, for example, carpenters, you can pick one of over 20 here. Say he picked the wrong one, then all of a sudden he can't work on a project in the city of Galt, and so that's problematic when you're trying to create work for residents of Galt who would want to work in their community.
And with the communication that we had on the phone, I let you know that my main concern is I think a lot of contractors will fulfill this requirement by hiring apprentices. I want to make sure that our apprentices that are hired out of Galt don't get put in programs and then get left behind when the project is over. That was the ultimate goal behind the graduation requirement. I'd be willing to sit down and talk to you with the city attorney and come up with a reasonable solution.
That would be great, because the students, they themselves, they have a choice of programs they can go in. They're not told or placed into certain ones. They have choices for which ones that they can enroll in. So that would be good. I'd be happy to sit down. Wanted to talk about, in making the good faith effort, in Section D, it says here, a bidder or contractor who fails to meet the goal. It's not really a bidder, because the contractor will bid, and once he's awarded the work, he will then go and fulfill the requirements. And not the bidder, but the contractor who's awarded, he will then go and do the 6 requirements. You might want to consider maybe shortening that down to 3. Because you might cut out some smaller contractors who don't have the staff available to be able to go through and do some of these things. One of the things here I wanted to mention was, it says you need to do you need to use a city facility to do your interviews. Do you have to use a city facility, or can you use some sort of local office? Is there going to be fees and extra charges for that, or can you use maybe the Chamber of Commerce to hold these interviews?
I think that'd be acceptable.
Okay.
The goal was just to make sure that it was open to the public, to make sure that it wasn't a place of business that would restrict people from coming in.
I've seen many of these agreements, and it looks like this one here was cut and pasted and put together from many of the other ones I've seen. And I think we should get all of the groups together in the room, AGC, ABC, the Sacramento Builders Exchange, who are all very, very concerned about this, and get everybody together in the room to craft a document that doesn't limit competition and increase costs for the city of Galt. I think that would maybe get everybody on the same page and get a really good document that works for the city of Galt. 2 other things really quickly I wanted to mention. Recently in Stockton, there was an example. I'll have to get you the concrete numbers, but I did hear from a contractor that after they did put the ordinance into place, there was a 60% increase in the bid. So there is an example of an increase in cost. And then to give you an example of a place that recently decided not to do this, where it was brought up, was the El Dorado Irrigation District. So I'll leave you with that, with my comments. I could keep talking. Thank you.
I'd be interested to see the results of that bid in Stockton, because I've talked to officials in Stockton and I've heard no such thing.
Yeah, I'll ask the contractor and we'll pull that information for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Christian?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Eric Christian. I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Fair Employment in Construction. We're a statewide organization with offices in San Diego and Sacramento that was created 11 years ago to guarantee that truly open competition in the construction industry is prevalent throughout California. What you have before you is generally perhaps some good ideas, perhaps not, but I think we need to question whether or not dictates from elected officials that perhaps are well-intended do not have unintended consequences. And I think we see that all the time, and some of those unintended consequences have already been raised by some of the speakers. You will absolutely have increased work for your staff. You will absolutely have increased costs because contractors, some will not bid. There are many who will have to increase the cost of the bid because they have had to abide by a lot of the new restrictions. So just take into account those unintended consequences, understanding that I understand that they are well-intended benefits to this, such as local hire, but the way the world works and a free market works is that sometimes your lowest responsible bidder with the professional workforce to do the work that's necessary does not fit into a particular zip code, number one. Number 2, on your second page under scope and goals, item number 1, I became a little bit concerned when I saw on the 5th line, it talked about assistance of local hiring halls or community organizations, and it should be pointed out to the district that in this state, workers choose to wake up and freely, of their own volition, go to work, 85% of them in a union-free environment. Labor halls are used by very few within the construction industry. That's just the reality. I belong to an organization that has both signatory and open shop members on its board, as well as members. And the reality is that just most workers choose to work in a union-free environment. So labor halls, perhaps in the 1930s, parlance or something that would be part of the conversation, but they're much more arcane these days, and there is a much broader swath of viable organizations that need to be part of this discussion, as was mentioned earlier. Associated Builders and Contractors, Associated General Contractors, the Western Electrical Contractors Association. This is an agreement that needs to be built and taken time and have a lot of input from a lot of different groups. And the December 1st deadline is just simply a subjective deadline. It's far too soon. This needs a lot of work. Very few entities in the state, municipalities have such an agreement. If you're going to do it, you'll want to do it right. I would just encourage you. And finally, on the second to last page from what I downloaded, I'm assuming it's the same for you under item number 4, the 60% definition, graduation rate defining what a viable apprenticeship program is, extremely subjective number. You're telling somebody who might have graduated and done all of their work and graduated from a program that only has a 20% graduation rate for whatever reason, is suddenly incapable of working on a project in Galt, even though they have mastered their trade. They may have graduated from a program with only a 59% graduation rate. Extremely subjective. I don't know where that number came from. It will be very problematic for you. Most of the programs don't have anywhere near that graduation rate, be they union or non-union, so just be very careful there. In conclusion, I think we need to be careful that we're not rushing into something that I guarantee you could prove problematic if it's not done right. Take your time on this. Get all parties at the table, both union and non-union. I realize that the councilman, represents a particular segment of the industry, and that's the union side of things. But there's a broad swath of the industry that happens to be open shop. Thank you very much.
Mr. Preston?
Yes.
Can you repeat where you work? I missed
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a mouthful. The Coalition for Fair Employment in Construction, CFEC. And I'll be glad to give you a card, if you would, please.
Mr. Christensen brought up some points like under C, scope and goals, item number 1, local labor hiring halls, and for some reason he's implying that that's directly related to the union. Labor Ready is a non-union hiring hall. Applegate is a non-union labor hiring hall. There's no references to unions at all in this document. So the local labor hiring halls in Stockton's ordinance, it actually said local union labor hiring halls. I deliberately took that out of this document to make sure that it was all inclusive.
Great, thank you. I've never heard hiring hall used in any other context except for unions, so that's good to hear your definition. Thank you.
Mr. Jimenez?
Thank you, Eric.
Dan Jimenez, and I live in the city. I have a piece of candy in my mouth that was left over from Halloween, so if that sounds a little weird, I apologize. Mine's just going to be short and simple, Andrew. You have a lot of statistics in here, like 50% of a contractor's total workforce to be from a Galt, and so on and so on. I'm just a little concerned that you're going for the whole thing all at one time and you want it all approved at one time. Why didn't you think of, say, a pilot run where you could find out, are the contractors, feedback from the contractors, how they feel about it, how much paperwork it's going to be for Greg over here, get some statistics together when you do one specific project, say a low dollar one, and come back and report either the success or the failure of it, so you can critique what either went really well or went really wrong, and then go to the next step, and then use it as building blocks. I see too many things, not only in this city, that are proposed and passed, and then they come to find out, oh my God, it's not working. So now you're scrambling around trying to fix it. That's my concern with this whole document. My other one, personal for me, is the union that's not very clear and stuff like that. But anyway, that's all I had. You know, I'd like to see a pilot run.
No, I'd be open to that. When you talk about, you know, why do you throw this document out there in its entirety and go for the whole enchilada? You know, we gotta take care of the situation that's at hand. People are losing their houses right now as we speak. People are sitting in their living rooms trying to figure out how they're going to pay their utility bill on Thursday. Suffering's taking place right now. Inaction is only going to foster more negative results in the city. When I find ways that I think the community can benefit, I throw it out there. So,
And I understand that. And I understand that. But a lot of times, rushing into something with good intentions doesn't really pay off 100% like you like to see it. All I'm saying is caution is always better than bang, 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 miss, miss, hit.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. Any other comments from the public? None? Okay, we'll go to council questions or comments. Vice Mayor Payne? Sorry.
Well, you know, this council, there's no doubt in my mind that every council member up here feels the pain of the citizens that some of them are going through. And it's our job to weigh what's best for the good of the whole community. I agree there is a need for jobs in Galt, but what I'm looking for are sustainable jobs that are going to be there month after month. I've spent a lot of time, I think, researching this because it is important to me, as I know it is to Councilmember Meredith, to be concerned about the individual people that live within our community. Some of the things that I have on my list of questions, others have brought up, but it's going to be hard for me to dissect it. So I'm just going to read some of my questions. I'm going to read the entire one, and then I'll give you a copy of it if you like, or we can address it at some other time. The biggest question I have, is there a history of a town the size of Galt that has this program and something that we could look at as a model? I know that Stockton has this, but I don't think the same things are going to apply to a city the size of Stockton that applies to a city that's less than 24,000. Would contractors, these are just speculations, would contractors not bid on Galt jobs due to the requirements? In other words, is our bidding pool going to be less because of the requirements of this? I'm sure all the council members got the same thing I did. I got a lot of information from organizations. Some of them had legal questions. And so one of my questions, the unknown possible legal issues are risky. And the time that we're in now where our economy is shaky, our city government has to also look after its own business. And I'm not sure this is the correct time for us to be involved in risky programs that we don't know that much about. Local governments do not require that our employees live within the city limits. We have some employees that live out of town. It seems a little bit unfair that we would require contractors to have local employees when, and it may be a legal issue that we don't require that our city employees live within the city limits. As far as I know, there's no percentage, no requirement there. Would Galt employees continue to have a job after the Galt project was completed? And this is a big issue with me. If a contractor comes in to do a job and they're required to have local people, are they going to hire some people just for that requirement, and then when the project is over, what's going to happen to them. I don't think a job for a month or two is going to really be the kind of sustainable employment that we're after. And then the other part of that is, if you are a contractor and you have qualified people, are you going to try to keep them within your company and then add local people that's actually going to increase the cost to the contractor for the project, which in turn is going to increase the cost to the city and the taxpayers? That's a question that I think we're not going to know. It's going to be up to the contractor whether he fires people when he replaces them with Galt employees or whether he has double payroll. I'm thinking there may be some projects. I'm involved in the Sacramento Transportation Authority. We get money that we've actually bonded to bring some of the projects forward. I'm not sure if we're going to have to kind of look at some of the projects we have to see what the legal issues would be involved in this local requirement, local employment requirement. Who enforces determining qualified individuals? Journeyman requirements. What is non-qualified? Who decides what a good faith effort is? Paperwork and documentation is time consuming and it's expensive. It's got to be. Time is money. These are the things I'm concerned about. The contractor shall be responsible for assuring that all subcontractors document said compliance. Again, I think that's going to add more cost to the project. How is the viable apprenticeship program implemented? And I'm wondering, is the apprenticeship, is that only for local people that would be involved in that? Is that part of your program, or is it people outside the sphere of influence? I'm not sure how that apprenticeship program
Are you
works.
asking if a contractor wins the job in Galt, would they be required to only use apprentices that met this criteria?
Or would the people that go into this apprentice program that you've described, would they have to be from Galt?
I don't think any of the apprenticeship programs require residency in a certain city, but the ordinance would require that if a contractor won the job in Galt, the only apprentices that could work on that job were ones that were in a viable apprenticeship program as defined in the ordinance.
So they would be Galt
Yeah.
people. Okay. Is there any plan for a follow-up and evaluation on the program? I'm not sure how this would work. One apprenticeship for every 5 journeyman requirements. It's just a question. I don't know.
I think those are pulled right off of the state requirement. Public works jobs, contractors are required to have at least 1 apprentice in a registered apprenticeship program for every 5 journeymen on the job.
Okay. The job informational meeting, who's responsible for that? That was one of the suggestions, or as part of the program, who's going to put it together? And
the contractor.
Job application center, who's going to pay for that? And this is part of the program.
A job application center could be, nothing more than a desk in the city clerk's office with all of the applications for vacancies.
Okay. What if all the cities implement this program? What if Lodi does? What if the city of Sacramento? What if all the surrounding cities have the same program that require you to use people that live in their town to do jobs? Is the converse going to be that we're going to have some of our people lose their jobs because they don't live in Lodi or Sacramento or whoever else decides to adopt this program? It's just a possibility. And finally, it's clear to me that this will cost extra money, extra time, and we will be asking our citizens of Galt to subsidize the program, and that's something that we have to consider and weigh. Do we want to do that at this time? Are we going to make our senior citizens help pay for this program, for example? These are just some of the questions that came to mind as I was reading the program. I certainly believe that your heart is in the right place, and I have empathy with what you're trying to do. I feel the same way. But I just have to be sure that if we do a program, it's going to be ultimately what we want it to be and not turn out to be something that we regret. That's the end of my list, and I'll be happy to give you a list of my questions.
I can answer a few of them right off the bat. The history of a city the size of Galt adopting the ordinance, I don't think any cities were comparable in size. That's why you see the differences in regards to the applicability, like a sliding scale. One of your other questions, I think, was pointed at the El Dorado Irrigation District case that was presented to us in the letter that we received from the ABC. The case that they're talking about, and I did a little more research on it this afternoon. El Dorado Irrigation District was looking at an ordinance after a local contractor that resided in El Dorado County lost a big public works project. He protested, saying that he should have a right to get that job because he lives in the city, or he lives in El Dorado County. And he asked that the El Dorado Irrigation District look into an ordinance that would give local contractors preference over outside contractors to get work. The difference with this proposal is it doesn't apply to contractors, one versus the other. Contractors are all on a level playing field, union, non-union, level playing field. They all have the opportunity to meet the requirements of this ordinance. So it's not the anti-competitive practices that the El Dorado Irrigation District was looking at with their proposal.
Okay. Councilman Darrell Clare.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things have been touched on, and again, I certainly support the goal, which is to help our citizens both within our city and around our city, because I've always considered the folks on the perimeter a part of our community, and that's been an ongoing theme as we've tried to look at our general plan and other things. My primary concern falls along a couple lines. One is that we achieve that goal of getting those people work. And my experience has been many of the people who are unemployed are a result of the housing market decline, and that's not what the city of Galt is putting out contracts to do, to build houses. In fact, we've got a pretty good history of trying to prevent houses being built, and if more houses were being built in town right now, we'd have more local people working. What we're building are highway interchanges and waste treatment plants, and those are typically bid by contractors, large contractors and engineering firms who unfortunately don't have corporate headquarters in the city of Galt. And as you know, my job is to negotiate and get contracts with government agencies. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I can tell you that the cost of doing business with a government agency is higher than doing a general commercial work. The oversight and administration required on the bidder's part is higher, and if you want to go higher than doing work with a city, then do nuclear, because their regulations are even much higher as far, again, as paperwork, traceability, audit, oversight, certifications, making sure certifications are current. And as you know, I work with nuclear-powered submarines, so I can tell you the difference, and it steps up markedly as you go from general commercial work to government work to nuclear work. And our city would have a like cost of we've got to have people on our side of the equation who can check where people live, how long they've lived there, if they've got their certifications. And so as other people have pointed out, I fear the end result would be a higher cost. And right now, most public work projects are coming in below the engineer's budgets because there are people out there who aren't building homes, who've got heavy equipment that's not being used to move dirt and other things, and they want to get that equipment moving. And I fear at a time when we're about to work on some major projects, we would scare some of the best bids away who don't either have the oversight staff or don't want to bring it in. And likewise, my experience, having had hundreds of employees in a manufacturing environment and job site environment, I'm concerned, and I put my best employees out in the field who I know have a track record for getting things done on time in a safe manner, because I'm worried about my workers' compensation rates. And any time we hire new folks into a workforce, quite frankly, they are not put in the major positions where we have our company at liability for safety and other issues. They tend to be lower-end jobs that are used for various forms of day labor and short-term, as Barbara pointed out. It is our long-term employees that we put in the higher positions, and I don't see someone somehow just going to any kind of hall and finding people to fill that niche just while they do a contract in our local area. So I have a lot of concerns, and I'm concerned that we're targeting the wrong jobs to replace anyway. So what I'd like to see us do, again, the idea is a great one, is to figure out a way to help people get jobs locally. I'm guessing one of the next items on the agenda is we're going to make a change in our city manager. One of the first things we do every year with our existing city manager, let alone the new one, is we set out goals and priorities for the manager and staff for the coming year and years. Let's put this in the items of consideration when we go through that process, and if it makes the cut, then the council can allocate staff time to target who are the unemployed in our community, what types of job skills do they have, therefore what types of things can we target to get those people back to work, and see if we can help them. But I'm not confident that this is quite the right approach at this time, but I think it's the right goal.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Don Haynes.
Yeah, you know, I got to be honest with you, Andrew. I like, for the most part, what you're doing, and I got to tell you, I hear a lot of good concerns, or rather, I hear some good questions out there, some concerns, and obviously, you're somebody with an open mind and you're listening, as I've already heard you indicate. I hope. Let me start off by saying that you'll take this with those questions, go back over this and bring something back, because we need something to help encourage people to hire people from Galt, because I think it's important that we're capitalizing on what resources we have. I think the draft that you've done on this issue is very well thought out. It may need some fine-tuning, but I think there's some potential there, so I'm hoping you'll take it and run and bring it back. I just want to touch on a couple of things. Is the citizens of Galt, you've got various levels of skills out there, and I don't really think we know as a council what the city holds and what we're capable of doing for these people, or what their needs are. But I think it's important maybe we start taking stock, because I think we need to start looking for programs in which we can help them. I think it's important that we're being more active about it and proactive about it, like Andrew's doing. And my hat's off to you, because I think this is an excellent idea, and I think it's got potential. So I look forward to something coming back after you've had a chance to review and overcome some of the concerns and that, and I most certainly would support something along this line.
Okay, I had a couple of things. It brought up, and thank you. I'd appreciate you bringing this forward. I agree with the remainder of the other council members. I believe what has happened, it's opened our eyes, and obviously we have other organizations that are willing to come forward and sit down with you or whoever you feel might be able to assist. And I agree with Daryl too. We can put this in our budget, at a later time. So with that said, I'll just ask for Andrew, you have any other comments that you'd like to add?
I do. Daryl, you brought up a couple comments about how a lot of the workers that are unemployed right now are out of the residential market. I think the representatives here from the ABC can tell you that is absolutely not the case. It is completely across the board. One only has to look at public works projects like the Sacramento County Airport that has drastically changed in scope of work, resulting in a lot of employees that typically work on prevailing wage projects that have faced the prospect of being unemployed. I know there's a lot of concerns that have been raised tonight, but I still think the best way to move forward with this is to give it a trial run. We can spend the next 30 days meeting with the ABC, meeting with the Coalition for Fair Contracting, I think was the name, Sacramento Building Exchange, the Sacramento Building Trades Council, trying to work out some of these fine details and put this out on a trial basis and see if all of these concerns that have been raised are valid. We have small projects that are coming up that we could use this on and see if it really works. My commander in Iraq used to have this great rallying speech that he'd give us before we flew big missions overseas. He'd say that this is where the metal meets the meat. And this is it, ladies and gentlemen. If we don't have any other plans in place, I mean, we got to try something. People are suffering right now, waiting for budget appropriations, waiting to, have the city manager find ways to help us achieve these goals. It's just delaying the suffering, and it's prolonging the suffering. We got to find ways to fix this problem, ladies and gentlemen. And if this isn't the way to do it, then by all means, the next couple council meetings, come up here in front of the community and present some ideas that actually create local jobs. That's all I have to say.
Mayor?
Yes?
Hey there, can I make a quick observation?
Please.
All right. And I don't mean to step on any toes or bring up bad issues, but I got to tell you, I'm a little surprised with some of the comments I've heard tonight by some people. When the Delta Greens project was being pushed and pushed and pushed, I kept hearing from some of the very same people who spoke tonight about all the jobs it was going to bring to the community and the jobs that the people here would get. So, when I listen to some of the objections tonight, I hope that they remember those when that project comes back. Because I think we're going to come across the same issues. If they're going to continue to push that project, should it go through, these are the issues you're going to be facing then. So I'd like them to think about that. Thank you.
So with that, I'd like to ask for consensus from the City Council as to whether or not we can bring this back with the assistance of staff and meeting with some of the representatives that we've talked about today. Bring this back in December for a final vote so the public can be fully aware of our intentions, they'll be fully aware of the benefits that this can have to the community before we make an ultimate vote.
As I said, what I'd prefer to do and see what happens under item I-1, but on my hope and guess that that gets approved tonight, I'd like to schedule as soon as possible, as we've done always in the past, and get our goals and objectives laid out clearly so that we don't do it piecemeal and that this doesn't usurp something that's of greater importance. A classic example, if we lose sight of the ball and don't keep the project to improve the interchange at Twin Cities going, that $1 million from Caltrans will go away if we miss our timeline. So I want to see all the critical priorities that our city is facing in one place, as we've typically done. Let the full council prioritize what they want the staff to work on. And if this is in the top priorities that demand staff time at this moment, fine. But I don't want to approve this that could be certainly tens, if not hundreds of hours between legal and staff, and some other project that we've somehow interfered with goes off the track. So I don't want to. I'm not in favor of putting a priority on this tonight until we go through that process.
Well, I think we have an obligation to look at this and to give Councilman Meredith an opportunity to work with staff, talk and work with the stakeholders, and find out what it is we can do. We don't know what potential this possible, what this type of program can provide, and I think it's something we need to consider. And I didn't hear these objections, and I'm going to come back again on the Delta Greens project. When this council majority voted to bring that back, there was no issue about getting the interchange done or any other issues. It was done. The time was given. Staff's time was used. And this project is what's good for Galt and it brings jobs, potentially could bring jobs to this community and people who could use them, and maybe even potentially some new training. So for people who don't have skills, so I think this is a valid project, and I think it's something that needs to be put on the table and something that needs to be moved forward with. And I think I have to agree with Councilman Meredith. There's people out there hurting right now. We can't continue to push it off because it's not a project we want to support, because we may have another project that's more important to us. I understand how scarce staff's time is. I also understand how hard they work. But we've got to continue to be progressive and move forward and look for ways to help this community. And this is one way to do it. I've yet to see any other council member bringing anything forward that's going to help people, other than voting on what needs to be done as far as awarding contracts or denying other projects. So I'd like to see this thing move forward. I don't feel that it's going to take a great deal of time from staff.
How many hours are you envisioning, Don?
Andrew, what do you feel?
To finish putting this together, is that what you're asking?
I think more appropriately the rejection of the question should come to the city manager, because I don't know how much time they're going to need.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry, cut you off.
Maybe we can make this a little clearer. If council doesn't feel comfortable with having staff work with me to put this together, that's fine. But I promise you, this will come back before the city council. It will be revised to address some of your concerns. And I will make the city council take a public position on this, one way or the other.
I think
I'm not going to kill this by not letting me have staff time. I will continue to do the work. I will continue to meet with all of these agencies, and I will put this on the agenda, and we will vote on it one way or the other.
Okay, that's fine. I have a question for the attorney, or Steve. Did you have a comment a while ago? I had a question for you.
Well, I think that one of the things that staff needs direction on, and we've been having the dialogue this evening, is if this is going to come back on the December 1st calendar, I need direction, and I believe the rest of the staff, the manager's office, needs direction as to whether or not we are to prepare this in ordinance format for council consideration on the December 1st meeting.
My comment on that, since you brought it up, is that I agree that we need to hold off on this until we set our goals. We're not talking about that much time, and I don't think there's any council member up here that is against trying to get jobs for Galt or necessarily against your program. I think we all want to see Galt and the citizens that live here have a better life. So I think we all have the same goal. I just think at this point it makes more sense to look at the whole picture. Again, we can't forget the situation that we're in now as far as economics and everything. So I'm in agreement with Council Member Claire that we discuss it at our goal setting meeting.
And I already said that earlier. Okay, but I have a question for the attorney. Is there any legal issues or concerns that we as council members should be aware of? I mean,
well,
this is something new.
Yeah, I'd have a couple of responses to that. First, there was reference this evening on the record pertaining to information provided by ABC furnished to the council prior to tonight's meeting. I've not received a copy of that, and there was reference to potential legal issues in there. So I'd want to look at that information and explore what those issues might be. But generally, the courts have looked at local hiring ordinances, and to simplify some fairly complex cases, if the city council can articulate justification for an ordinance of this nature, then it is defensible. The things that the courts look at from a federal perspective is that this type of ordinance is it's certainly favoring the folks that live within Galt, but the flip side is that it presents a level of discrimination against people that do not live within the community. So the courts have allowed a certain level of discrimination as long as there is evidence presented to the council, and that forms the basis for their ordinance that establishes the need for the discrimination, and it's narrowly construed. So, for example, some of the things that I think were referenced in the Stockton ordinance, I'm not familiar with their evidence, but they indicated that in their ordinance that there was declining number of jobs within the community, unemployment was on the rise. I think there was reference to skilled workers leaving the locale in order to maintain that workforce within the community. That kind of evidence would be very relevant to the defensibility of this type of an ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I mean, you answered my question, and that was some of my concerns. So, okay, we just need direction from council. So, Andrew, you wanted to bring it back, or are you making?
As I said, I'm requesting staff time to meet with the agencies that we've talked about tonight, address their concerns, address the concerns of staff and council with this program, and bring it back in a formalized document.
Yeah, we have that, and we have another direction. Go ahead, City Attorney.
Well, if I'd like to make another suggestion, with due respect, if I could do that. I really think that there's a lot of disservice to the city when major items like this are brought forward and there's not a full workup by city staff, because I think then it comes to the council for a vote and you do not have the benefit of your professional staff's input, and if we're not part of the process, then sometimes we really can't provide a level of advice that we normally do. And so maybe another approach on this, instead of meeting with some of the groups that have come forward this evening and coming forward on December 1st with a finished product, would be to direct staff to work with Councilmember Meredith on this ordinance, questions that have been brought forward, meet with the groups, and provide a report back to the council on December 1st as to those particular issues, what information has been developed, and at that point in time, maybe the council can decide whether or not they want to move forward with the preparation of an ordinance, and if so, give direction as to what the parameters of that ordinance might be. And for example, one of the things that I think might come out of that kind of a process is Councilmember Meredith has come forward tonight with certain thresholds within this ordinance. If we went through the process of meeting with various groups, bringing forward information, we might be able to bring forward some data that would result in the council as a body giving direction on an ordinance with maybe a different set of threshold requirements. I mean, that might be one thing this body as a whole would do. So I don't know if that kind of a process would be acceptable to the council or to directly Councilmember Meredith.
Does that work out as a compromise for the council members or not?
Do we have any idea what kind of time frame, how many hours we're looking at as staff time?
Approximate.
Because I'm thinking we could do this while we're getting set for our goal setting meeting, and it could all come together at the same time. But do we have an estimate of the hours it's going to take to get us to that point?
Well, I think just from my perspective, attending a few meetings and doing some additional legal research is probably in the neighborhood of 10 hours would be my best estimate this evening.
Just to put this in context too, I want the council to remember that I believe it was just one meeting ago that we gave authorization to let staff bring back information on creating a 4-year elected term mayor position. What I'm trying to figure out here is, are we trying to kill this project, this ordinance that I'm proposing, just because I'm the one that's proposing it? Are we trying to kill it because we don't think creating local jobs is important? Are we trying to just make this impossible for me to bring forward? Or are we going to let me bring back a formalized document that gives all the different aspects of this ordinance in a broad perspective? Staff has the opportunity to weigh in on it. I could have put this on the agenda as an action item tonight. The reason that I didn't was because I wanted the council to have an opportunity to comment, make suggestions, and I wanted staff to be able to weigh in also over the next 30 days. So if that's not acceptable, then let's hear it. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Are we just trying to kill this tonight so that I can't bring it forward, or are we going to wait for this to come back as a formalized document?
I'll answer. Normally I don't. I stay last, but what I'm trying to do now is find a compromise. It sounds like we have the majority of the council members that are wanting this to prepare to go forward, put all this together, exactly what the attorney said, but put it in context with the goal setting. That's kind of what I'm gathering. Council members tell me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've heard.
That's what I'm asking for, and I think if we want to make priorities, I say let's prioritize having the goal-setting meeting, and I'm okay if staff wants to use a small amount of time to figure out what they think their total time is going to be, so we can make an informed decision when we set our priorities.
And the goal setting will be, do we have a projected date?
Typically, we do it in January or February. We could do it January if there's a
Usually
need
towards
to
the
move
end.
it up. Usually, the holidays are very difficult to get those kinds of things organized. So after the first of the year, we could move it to the middle of January, end of January.
I know that.
I propose we do it this month.
Well, I don't think you need to move the training up or the goal setting up. I just think really what needs to be done is let's move forward. Give Andrew the time that he wants or needs to work with staff, and let's get this done. I would hate to be the citizen out there who's out of work, who potentially may find a job in this new idea, but yet I've got council members who want to put it off until they feel like they better, until a better time when they feel like addressing it.
I don't think that's what we're saying, Don.
Well, it sounds like it to me. I can't help but think you're trying to kill the idea. I haven't seen any of you bring anything forward. And as far as staff time goes, I've repeatedly seen staff time used for a lot of other issues, such as the Delta Greens project. So I'm starting to feel a little bit of, I'm a little concerned that I'm starting to see what we always seem to see. It all depends on whose projects and who's bringing it forward. So I don't think what he's asking for is asking too much. And I think that to do anything less than to provide him the time, I just can't see it.
Okay, so did we have any other estimate of time? You said 10 hours. Would that include our Public Works Director?
It's just the attorney time.
That's just, I believe, attorney time.
Yeah.
So if we were going to look at a dollar figure, we're probably talking about, what, 3,000, something like that, to get us to the point where we could review it at our goal setting?
In excess. I mean, our time is built in. My concern is more for the Public Works Director. He's inundated with a number of critical projects right now. We can certainly, the council's direction to dedicate time to this project, we will find time to dedicate to this project. The attorney's time is estimated at 10 hours. My estimate would probably be similar, and Public Works Director would probably be something similar as well. 30.
Is it something that, considering that the Public Works Director is understaffed and very busy right now. Is it something that the city attorney and council member Meredith and you, if you have the time, could work on and leave the public works director out as much as possible?
I don't think he would want that. I don't think he's the one that's going to be most impacted by this ordinance, and I would hate to leave him out of that discussion.
I'm hearing that I am going to be one dealing with this at the end, so I certainly would like, with council's blessing, to have a voice in what's prepared, at least what's presented.
Well, could I ask if there might be the possibility, we meet again in 2 weeks.
Right.
Would it be reasonable to ask staff to come back in 2 weeks with an estimate of the total hours and costs to complete a proposal of the nature that's been brought forth, and an opinion from the staff of any ongoing projects that are in place now that this would in any way interfere or delay with, so we can make an informed decision?
So let me see if I understand the motion correctly. We're considering having staff go out and use staff time to evaluate how many hours of staff time they would spend on this proposal. It's ridiculous. Either we're going to commit the staff hours or we're not. You know, and the message
That's like
tonight.
saying, Andrew, that it's ridiculous to have staff tell us how much a public works project is going to cost. We always require that before we approve it.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we allocate X amount of hours for Andrew to work with staff and say, okay, anything that overs that amount of time has to come back to council for approval. How about that? If that's really your concern, then let's overcome it. Let's say, okay, and let's say, I don't know, Andrew, what do you think that you would need just to work with staff on this? What time frame?
I'm not even sure. I wouldn't know how to estimate it. I don't know the issues that staff are going to bring forward. You know, just keep in mind that we're talking about putting this off until after our goal setting, and 2 weeks ago we allocated staff time to help put together the guidelines and the requirements to put a 4-year elected mayor term on the ballot. We did that before doing any council setting goals. So what's more important? Is it more important that we allocate staff time so that the city of Galt has a directly elected mayor, or is it more important that the city of Galt spend some staff time to maybe create some local jobs? What's the priority?
If I may, please. You brought, Andrew, you know, I don't want to get into this, but you did bring that up twice about the mayor. What I had said in my comments was that I would get with Jason and I would discuss it, and I've not got with Jason to ask him anything on it. So that wasn't any time that was spent or anything else. I mean, that's a day in and day out question that I would ask when I'm here on my mayor day on Thursdays. But I'm trying to find a compromise with the council, and for some reason we're not getting one.
Well, that's why I said, let me try and make a motion and see if we can pass a motion. My motion is that on the 17th at our next regularly scheduled council meeting, staff gives us an estimate of hours and costs to develop a full, ready-to-be-voted upon proposal in the fashion that Mr. Meredith has presented to us tonight.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Just a point of information first. I'd like to hear from staff to hear how long it would even take to put together those hours.
Mr. Mayor, let me make a
Ed,
comment.
you did have your hand up while
On the
I was
elephant in the room. I'm going to make a suggestion. One of the problems the staff is going to have is that we would have to do quite a bit of research on this to determine what those issues are. I would suggest that everybody get in a room, the agencies, staff, Andrew, attorney if you need to, spend a couple of hours, put on the board the pros and the cons and the issues and the concerns and outline all of those, so that then when they come back to the council on the next meeting, then staff can say, yeah, we've looked at these issues and we think it's going to take this amount of time because here's what the issues are. The problem staff has, it's going to take us time to figure out what all those issues are. We don't know what they are, so it's hard for us to say, here's how much time it's going to take because we don't know.
I agree with you.
I do too,
Council.
because one of the points I was trying to make is we don't have a history that we can look at to make a good judgment call, which is what we're here for.
But wouldn't you want Andrew there to help address those concerns as
Well,
you go through them and they
absolutely,
surface?
and I think the other thing we would do is we would find all the ordinances we could, and anybody that was looking at it, or anybody that had information about it.
Well, and my proposal doesn't preclude any of that from happening. My proposal is staff is to prepare that estimate to be presented on the 17th. You are welcome to do just what you said.
Okay.
And I seconded it already.
And there's been a motion and it's been seconded. So,
Mr. Mayor, can I make one point before you call the question?
please.
I think that if it's going to come back on the 17th, I think in addition to an estimate of cost to prepare the end product, that it ought to be agendized to consider this concept of a local hiring ordinance and whether or not the council supports that issue in concept, and if there is support in concept for a local hiring ordinance, then it would certainly make sense to direct staff to then prepare the ordinance for your consideration. But to come back with an estimate, to then approve the estimate and have us do the staff work to prepare the document without there having been a discussion of the conceptual support, seems to me that we're kind of getting the cart before the horse.
Is there, anyone want to amend their motion or not?
Well, if we're going to do away with preparing the estimate, and if what the attorney's advising is that we should agendize a basic discussion, I guess we can do that. I would think we could do both.
I do also think we could do both.
Okay.
Then I would be glad to amend my motion to include that.
And I'll include it as my second.
Okay. If there's no further comments,
I have a
and
few.
of course I'm sure there are.
I figured. Again, I'm really trying to understand why, if the main issue with letting me work with staff to bring this back is the use of staff hours, why are we recommending that staff use staff hours to calculate how many hours it would take to put together the ordinance?
I would answer because we kind of need to know what we're looking at here in staff time.
But if
It's
it
like a
takes,
blank check.
if it takes staff 40 hours worth of work to calculate how many hours it would take to put this together, and let's say it took 70 hours to put it together, would it still be worth investing 40 hours of staff time just to come to that conclusion?
Well, I'm thinking from what we've received so far, obviously it's hard to make a decision. We don't have enough information. There's enough unknowns that we need this in order to have the consensus that the city attorney is suggesting. We need to decide if we even want to pursue it, which is a question you brought up also.
Well, and that goes back to what I was asking for. I was asking for staff time to bring back as much information
I
and
think that's what you
amendments
thought.
as possible. That's not what the motion is. The motion is to bring the item back for general concept vote and to allow staff to use staff time starting now to evaluate how many hours it would take to put together the ordinance.
And also for council to show if there's a consensus to even pursue it. I think that was the amended motion.
Well,
And to do
it's
that,
pretty clear
I
that
would have to have more.
we're not going to come to a consensus, so I'm willing to entertain the motion.
Well, we already have a motion right now. Okay. So unless it's rescinded, pulled, I'm not to call for the vote.
Could we have the city clerk read the motion?
Would you please, because I'm starting to get confused now.
Upon a motion by Claire, seconded by Payne, at the next city council meeting, staff would bring back an estimate of hours and a cost of the full proposal of the presentation from Meredith, which also included an amendment by Claire, seconded by Payne, to add the question of approval in concept by the city council.
And if it'll help explain my thinking on this, this is similar to the rent control issue that's been talked about for some while. we got off on a course of action, and a certain amount of time has been spent with staff, without staff. The Supreme Court of California, I believe, has made some rulings about the legalities of such a measure. And so I would want to hear from our staff and our attorney everything we need to know before we make a decision, whether it's on rent control or whether it's on this item. And so that's my motion, and I hope we can have the vote.
Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye? No.
No. Aye. Next item, please.
Okay. Next item.
Ordinance, regular calendar, city attorney's office.
The Attorney's Office appointment of City Manager.
Staff report by the city manager. Or, excuse me, by the city attorney. Steve?
I can handle that.
Yes, Mayor and council members, presented for your consideration tonight is an employment agreement with Jason Behrman to be to serve in the position of city manager, an amendment to the employment agreement with your current city manager, Ted Anderson, and authorization of the mayor to execute both agreements. The city council formed a subcommittee.
Excuse me, point of order. I had a council member walk out. Can I still continue the meeting? I just want to make sure. We have two on teleconference.
No, the folks that are on teleconference that are outside of the jurisdiction cannot serve as a part of your quorum. You need to have 3 members located within the jurisdiction.
Right. So can we find out if we need to take a little break? That's fine, but yeah.
So do we want to, Mr. Mayor, do we want to go on recess for a few minutes?
Can we take a quick little recess, please, like 5 minutes? Well, I can't continue the meeting because when you have 2 on, yeah.
I'm sorry, Liz, are you there?
We're going to take a quick little break, guys.
Oh, okay.
Don't hang up. We'll be here, or I'll be here.
What are we taking a break for? I didn't catch it.
Serious.
Andrew has left the
No, that's sad. That is sad. You need a different one.
I'm gonna move my watch.
Carol, Andrew just stepped out for a moment, okay?
Okay.
And it was explained to me by the city attorney that when we have two council members on teleconferencing, then all 3 of us have to be in the room.
Right.
It doesn't matter that it was Andrew.
I'm going to get a glass of water. I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you. Well, then I'm going
Hey, Inez, look at the ice cream.
I've got mine.
Hey, you.
What's he gonna do? I thought he was gonna take a picture. Should she take a picture of it? Well, I gotta take one too.
You gonna get my picture?
That page taking pictures of Jason.
What are we doing here?
Hey, Al. What do you do with all your pictures?
Hey, Liz,
Yeah?
are you near your cell phone?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Put them all on it. What I do, this really works. When people die in this town, they can't find pictures.
That's what you're doing?
Well, that's one of the things.
How are we doing?
We're waiting.
Sound like somebody served a punch of cake or something.
Yep.
So you don't work for a newspaper?
I don't work for anybody with me. Or, well, there is one person I work for, I've got. But other than that, I don't know, that's it. In fact, I got laid off, so now I really don't work for anybody.
Darrell, did you see the pickup Virginia and New Jersey? Governor races? You there?
Yeah.
Liz?
She stepped out for a moment.
Oh, did she? All right.
Speakers are on this side, and when it comes back. With what we
I'll take care of that over the next couple weeks, no doubt. Well, that's why it wasn't an action item tonight.
It was a presentation.
It wasn't listed as an action item.
You're not going to get your award.
Didn't give enough time to pursue further.
Right.
What are we doing now? Well, they have to show up, Rachel.
Well, we had, I know, but we had comments coming through.
How's UOP? How's UOP? Did you like it down there?
Okay. We're back from our little recess.
Hoping we're done tonight.
Probably.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we were about to get a presentation from Steve, our attorney.
Okay. I'm not sure where I cut off here, so I'll just start over.
Thank you.
The item before us, council this evening, is to consider an employment agreement with Jason Berriman to serve as city manager. Also an amendment to the employment agreement with your current city manager, Ted Anderson, and authorization of the mayor to execute both agreements on behalf of the city. The City Council formed a subcommittee that negotiated the proposed agreement with Jason Berriman. Basically, this agreement provides for Mr. Berriman to serve as city manager for a period of 3 years, and as with all city managers, he would serve at the pleasure of the City Council, and the agreement provides the specific terms of his employment, compensation, and benefits. And with that presentation, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Okay. Any comments or questions from council? Vice Mayor Payne? Council Member Claire?
Well, I'm very excited about the opportunity before us for Jason, and also excited for Ted as he's heading towards his retirement. Ted has done a tremendous job serving our city, and the financial state of our city is directly creditable to Ted and his staff when other cities are suffering. We've seen Jason in action for a number of years now, and I think unanimously we're all very impressed with the work he's done as he's come to our city, especially in the areas of our capital improvement plan and a variety of other things. So I'm going to be very glad to vote in favor of this item tonight.
Okay, thank you. I was just reminded that we had one speaker. Don, do you mind waiting a second?
No, I'll wait.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Did we have any other speakers?
Just one, Al Baldwin?
Al Baldwin, I'm the citizen of Galt, and yeah, I need a job. But I wanted to come tonight and say that Jason has been around for 3 years. I've seen him when he came. I watched him progress, and I'll tell you, he's just bloomed into a wonderful, wonderful assistant city manager. I've also seen Ted Anderson in this town when he came too, and I've been here for quite a while, and he's also become a blooming flower too. So he's got smarts that other cities keep calling, and I know that it's rubbed off on Jason. I would urge you to confirm Jason. He's a very high character. I've been in meetings with Jason. I've seen the way he handles himself and handles other people. He's above reproach in many, many areas. He listens, which is very important, especially in a city manager's position. And he can make decisions without bias, and that's important. And he's got the knowledge, and he's a Baldwin over there. And I kind of like that name too, because I'm a Baldwin. And nevertheless, he's going to do a great job, I know, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. And I'm also thinking that Ted Anderson's got some real good things in his future, and I know he's going to start flying with the Eagles out there, and he's going to go and soar to all kinds of heights. I'm looking forward to working with Jason and listening to him and communicating with him. I think it's a great choice, and I think he's A+. So very good.
Thank you, Al. Okay, Councilmember Don Haynes.
Yeah, I think we owe Ted Anderson a great deal of gratitude when you look at the condition of the city today as opposed to so many others who had to do massive layoffs, major cutbacks that are hurting so dearly, whereas, we've been able to get by and maintain the level of services that we have. So he is the key to that, and he'll be dearly missed, and I think it's a big pair of shoes for Jason to have to fill, but at the same time, I'm very grateful that we have Jason, because if anybody's going to be able to fill him, I believe it will be him. He most certainly brings a lot to the table. He's got good experience. He's young. He's ambitious. He's got great ideas. He works well with all of us, and that's something we need. So I'm very much in support of him tonight. I think we're very lucky as a city that we have him, and I'm hoping to be here with him and support him every bit of the way.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to start off by making a few comments about our city manager, Ted Anderson. Ted, I think, took this job in '99, a year after I graduated from high school. He's led this city for 10 years, which is an extremely long tenure in a city like Galt, where the political factions deviate from one side to the other so rapidly. When you're a city manager in a politically divisive city like Galt, it's really hard to keep your job. I think Ted has led the city with ethics and with conviction. He's always made decisions that were in the best interest of the city of Galt as a whole. As Darrell touched on, Ted really prepared the city of Galt for this economic recession, starting when he came to this city in '99. The reserve, the general fund reserve that we have, was really built up during Ted's tenure because Ted made it a priority. And if we didn't have that general fund reserve today, we'd be in really, really bad financial shape. Ted has done an amazing job for the city of Galt. One of the things that I like the most about him is that when he doesn't agree with something that council is pushing, and he doesn't think that it's in the best interest of the residents as a whole that live in the city of Galt, he's never been afraid to bite his tongue. He's always been willing to throw the objection out there. And I think with a city manager, that's extremely important. You've got 5 elected officials that all come from various backgrounds. The city manager is college trained to handle the day-to-day functions of the city, and he knows what is in the best interest of the city as a whole. And I really want to commend Ted for always taking the city as a whole into consideration when making decisions and offering advice. So, Ted, we're really going to miss you. I hope this isn't the last meeting that we see you at. I'd like the city to do something really big right before your retirement becomes official.
Well, I'm going to ask Al Baldwin if he won't train me so I can be one of Galt's next citizens. You're on.
And in regards to Jason, I think the city of Galt has got an amazing asset. I think Ted has done a great job working with Jason over the last several years, helping develop Jason's leadership skills. Jason's really progressive about the way that he handles business, and I think it's going to be a big benefit to the city of Galt in the future. My only fear with Jason is that other cities that are bigger than Galt are going to realize what an amazing asset we have here in the city of Galt, and they're going to try to lure him away. So we're going to have to make sure that our small town atmosphere and our good town charm are able to convince his wife to keep him here. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, Ted, because of you being so financially a penny pincher, and we really do appreciate that, and that's why we're in the black. That's why financially we're set. Hats off to you and your department heads. You guys have done a good job, and I want to personally thank you for the years that you've spent here. Thank you. And Jason, I look forward to working with you. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say congratulations now, but we'll have to do it officially.
Well, if I can, then I'd love to make a motion that the council approve that we employ Jason Behrman as our new city manager, and that we approve the employment contract with Ted Anderson to complete the time he has with the city, and that we should also be looking at planning a proper send-off for him and his retirement.
I'll second the motion.
I had one issue that I wanted to bring up. Somebody sigh out in the audience. Was that Woody? Well, I brought a proposal forward about 9 months ago, I think, that called for the elimination of the assistant city manager position. Now that the assistant city manager position is vacant, I would just like to give council the opportunity again to give direction on whether or not we should fill that position in the future. It's not anything that has to be taken care of tonight, but I think it's important for residents that look at this new contract that we approved, that we're looking at approving tonight, that we're approving this contract possibly with the understanding that the city of Galt is going to save substantial amount of money by not backfilling Jason's position.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of order, action on that position is not one of the agendized items, so
Right.
I understand that maybe the council wants to bring that back for discussion and consideration at another meeting, but to include that within the motion would not be my recommendation.
Just to clarify, that was not my intent, was to include it in the motion. I just think that the city council members as a whole would do well to send the message to the community when we approve this contract that we intend on not backfilling this position. It doesn't have to be part of the motion. It can just be part of the comments that we make under the public record.
I have no problem with that. I would agree.
Well, I wasn't going to make a comment, but I will now. I think I feel compelled to just state that let's get our new city manager on board and, set some goals and objectives that I believe that he'll probably be telling us about 99% of the goals and objectives that we want, and he'll be meeting and exceeding all of those. So at that time, maybe it'd be one of the items we might discuss in the future. With that said, I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And Ted.
Let me I'll say a few words. Are you all done?
And Ted, thank you again.
Yeah, and I wanted to express my appreciation to the council. I'm honored by your vote of confidence and support. I look forward to working with each of you. I look forward to working with staff. I think we have a great staff here in the city of Galt, and we're all blessed and fortunate to have the hard workers and dedicated staff that you have. And I want to say a great thanks to my mentor, Ted Anderson, and the great wisdom and inspiration that he's been to me and helping guiding me in my journey through Galt. And it's certainly been a journey here, and I hope that the journey will continue for many years into the future. My family and I enjoy living here very much, and it does have a nice small town family atmosphere, and we are enjoying living here. I'm looking forward to seeing bigger and better things out of Galt in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, please.
Next item under City Attorney, the City Council Procedural Guidelines, Resolution, and Ordinance.
Mayor and council members, at the last city council meeting, there were some revisions provided by the city council to the draft procedural guidelines. Those revisions have been made, and a clean document has been presented tonight for your consideration. If the city council desires to take action on these procedural guidelines this evening, it would be recommended that you adopt the resolution that repeals the existing rules and adopts the new guidelines, and introduce and waive the full reading of the ordinance repealing and readopting certain provisions in the municipal code that are inconsistent with some of the provisions of the procedural guidelines. So with those comments, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions from council?
No, I don't have any questions.
Darrell?
No, I appreciate the time and effort that the council has taken in this, and specifically Jason and our city attorney did a lot of great work bringing our guidelines up to more modern standards and cleaning up a lot of things that need to be addressed. So I think it's a great step forward, and glad to have it done.
Don?
No, I agree with Daryl.
Andrew?
No comments.
Okay.
With that, if there aren't any other comments, I'll move the adoption of the new council procedural guidelines, including the items the city attorney just read off, in particular adopting the resolution repealing resolution number 2002-104 and adopting the new city council procedural guidelines.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments? I have one. Although I appreciate everything that staff and council members have done, there was the one item that everyone, there's no secret, how I feel about the mayor being either 4 years or appointed for 2, so I will not support the motion. I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye? I'm sorry, what was that?
I will not support the motion.
Which motion? I'm sorry.
There was a motion made to approve the procedure guidelines. Motion's been made and seconded. Then I call for discussion, and I made my comment, and then I'm just calling for the vote.
Okay.
And I'll call for the vote again.
We'll start over?
No, just call for the vote. But yeah, start vote again, please.
Aye.
Aye?
Don, that's your cue.
No.
No?
No. Go ahead.
Aye. No. Pass 3-2. Okay. And the next item we have?
From the Public Works Department. Award a bid for the City of Galt's wastewater treatment plant tertiary filtration, UV disinfection, and biosolids 2009 improvements.
Okay, and staff report by Mr. Holliday.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to reintroduce Lisa Sanders. Lisa is a senior civil engineer in charge of our water and wastewater project, and she has lived and breathed and slept and dreamed of this project for the last 2 years she's been, so I felt it was appropriate to bring her before council and let her present this item for you.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Council members. Staff recommends that Council authorizes the City Manager to execute a contract to construct the wastewater treatment plant upgrade improvements with Korea Construction Company in the amount of $11,732,000, contingent on the State Revolving Fund loan, approval of award, and further authorizes the Director of Public Works to accept the improvements and issue the notice of completion upon completion of the improvements. In January 2004, the California Regional Water Quality Control Board adopted a new NPDES permit for the city's wastewater treatment plant. The NPDES permit, as adopted, required full compliance with the number of new effluent limits no later than November 2008. However, these new effluent limitations were subsequently vacated as a result of an appeal by the city to the State Water Resources Control Board. State board policy requires that limitations established in accordance with the California Toxics Rule be met no later than May 18, 2010, if discharging. Since the city doesn't discharge until November 1st, this establishes the deadline for the city's wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. In August 2008, Council approved a contract for engineering services with West Jost Associates for design of the tertiary filtration and UV disinfection upgrade to the existing wastewater treatment plant. And on June 2nd, 2009, Council approved a contract for engineering services with West Jost Associates for adding the design of the biosolids dewatering facility to the tertiary filtration and UV disinfection upgrade. In order to meet the very tight construction schedule, the city pre-selected the major equipment necessary for the upgrade project, including the tertiary filters, UV disinfection, and biosolids dewatering equipment prior to bidding the overall upgrade project. West Jost completed plans this past September. In order to help ensure successful delivery, the project specifications did include significant bidder pre-qualification requirements for similar project experience. Bids for the project were opened on October 6, 2009. A total of 6 contractors submitted bids. The engineer's estimate was $14.6 million. Staff is very pleased with the bid results as they were significantly under the engineer's estimated range from $11.7 million to $12.9 million. Staff reviewed the submitted bids, performed the required reference checks for the prime contractor and subcontractors, and performed its due diligence and found the low bidder, Kawia Construction Company, to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Construction is scheduled to begin in mid-November 2009 and be completed by October 2010 prior to the discharge season. Throughout the design process, staff, with assistance from West Yost, has spent considerable effort coordinating with the state staff regarding approval of a state revolving loan to finance the upgrade improvements. Based on information received earlier today, loan approval may be as soon as 2 weeks. In order to minimize any delay once the city has the approval to execute the construction contract by the state, staff is requesting that council pre-authorize the city manager to execute a contract to construct the wastewater treatment plant upgrade improvements with Kawia Construction in the amount of $11,732,000. It is understood that the final execution of the contract is contingent upon prior commitment for the state revolving fund loan by the state. On a related note, staff is currently reviewing proposals from consultant firms for needed construction management services and is also negotiating with West Yost Associates for a task order for design-related construction support services and programming. These contracts will be brought to council for consideration in the near future. Remaining costs to deliver the upgrade improvements are estimated to be approximately $14.4 million. The current fiscal year 2009-2010 budget includes approximately $16.4 million in available funding for the project, including the SRF loan. A detailed breakdown is included in the agenda report. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from council?
I have no questions.
I was really pleased to see the close, tight grouping of all the bidders. I think that's probably a good sign that the comprehension of the project was high and the details included in it were good so that they fully understand what's at hand here. And I'm also glad to see that it came almost a couple $1 million under the estimate. So.
Okay. Councilmember Haynes, any comments?
No, I have no comments.
Okay. Councilmember Meredith?
Yeah, I did my customary criminal record search and OSHA violation search. All of the contractors on the job seem to be responsive. Not that it would make any difference one way or the other, but it seems that they're all responsive. So I'm supportive of the recommendation.
Okay. And I? Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And second it. Any further discussion or comments? None? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Also, Mayor, if I could, I want to congratulate the staff. They have done an immense amount of work, as we know, getting to this point. Congratulations to all of you.
Okay. Good job. Thanks. Okay, we'll adjourn to the redevelopment agency. If I could have the roll call, please.
Okay, board members Payne.
Here.
Claire.
Here.
Haynes.
Here.
Meredith.
Here.
Shelton.
Here. Public comment?
I have no speaker sheets.
Okay, we have information consent agenda, 2 items. If you would read those, please.
Yes, the first item, approval of the minutes of the meeting of October 20th, 2009. And the second item, approval of the redevelopment agency warrant.
Any comments or questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Any further discussion? None? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Passed 5-0. Adjourn and reconvene to the Galt City Council. City Clerk's report.
Just a couple of reminders. On November 11th, there will be a Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Actually, I'm sorry, the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting that was supposed to be on November 11th has been canceled. city offices will be closed on November 11th in honor of Veterans Day. There will be a Planning Commission meeting at 6:30 p.m. in the council chambers on November 12th, and that takes us to our next city council meeting.
Okay. Comments by staff?
I have one. It's been a banner week for Public Works in addition to awarding the upgrade project, and we're hearing about the loan. I'm pleased to announce to council that Monday we started discharging through the effluent discharge pipeline project. We believe this will be the end to the majority, if not all, of the permit violations. So we're not done with the overall project, but the pipe is flowing.
Another couple comments also relating to some public works items. The city received $500,000 in federal appropriation money for our wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, so that'll lessen the blow a little bit on some of those fines and help us construct some of those improvements out there. A lot of hard work by a lot of individuals, most importantly Congressman Lundgren and his staff and the effort that they had in our lobbyist Pete Evich and his efforts back in Washington, D.C., as well as council members and staff that were involved in getting that. $500,000 is a lot of money for the residents of Galt, the ratepayers here. Also, one item of interest for certain council members, I know there's been talk in the past of the city buying a hybrid vehicle, and the city purchased its first hybrid vehicle last week, a Prius. So it's over in Public Works, and it was purchased using, I believe, federal transit dollars and so forth. So you may see that running around town. We're pleased that we were able to make that purchase.
Who's driving it?
We've named it the Raboy, okay? Greg brought it over and gave us a ride in it. White.
The white Prius, it was purchased with state transit money. We're going to a lot of meetings in Sacramento and a lot of field research with some of the transit. So the primary assignment for the vehicle will be for use with the transit and other funds through TDA, but it will be available for limited use for other errands and other things in the Public Works Department.
No other comments by staff? We'll go to comments by city council members. Vice Mayor Payne.
I wanted to congratulate the County of Sacramento on their very fine, brand-new animal shelter. It's no longer a dog pound. This is a state-of-the-art animal shelter. And it's still on Bradshaw, just a couple of blocks down from the old one. It's really an experience to see it. I was there for the grand opening. The other thing I want to take a moment to emphasize, if you'll recall, probably about a year or so ago, we had a gentleman come to speak to the council who was legally blind, and he was talking about some of his concerns on A Street. And then later on, we had another gentleman that was in one of the power wheelchairs that was saying if he was coming down A Street by Smud Park, he had to get out into the traffic. So I just want to say our Public Works Department and the City of Galt does listen to the needs and concerns of the people, and maybe they can't do it immediately, but as soon as possible, they do what they can. And if you look at A Street now, we have the sidewalk on Smud Park. The ADA compliance looks to be pretty much complete. And so again, I just want to say, you know, maybe people don't think City Hall listens, but I'm here to say that they do. So hope everybody will remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Claire.
Yeah, to follow up with the congratulations to Congressman Lundgren and his staff for the $500,000. Definitely want to repeat that. Also remind everybody that we're still working with Pete Evich on the FY10 transportation appropriation, and we're still hoping for a congressional grant that will come out for the Central Galt interchange on that project as well. And a reminder, Greg maybe has already done this, but if you can get a hold of Joe Young at the San Francisco EPA office, we just want to make sure that we got everything he needs so that the funding flows smoothly as this comes out of there. So, also, I attended the quarterly meeting for the Rail Commission Board. I sit on overseeing Amtrak to San Joaquin. Things are going well there, on time. train service continues to actually improve. Ridership seems to move up and down a little bit with the price of gas, as you might imagine, and of course the summer season shifting into fall. But a sub-working group of that both Jason and Barbara attended recently, we're going to have the next follow-up meeting of that, which is on the 13th. And Barbara, I think you had wondered if I can make that meeting, which I can, but you're welcome to come, and Jason as well. We've got a green light at this point, as I'd mentioned before. The High Speed Rail Commission is asking our working group to do some of their work for the right-of-way and easement, moving towards that through our Central Valley. And so we're going to be meeting on the 13th to talk about the EIR scoping and see if we can keep that, if I can use the pun, on a fast track. So still very encouraged on the outlook for what may become a commuter rail service for us.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Haynes?
You did say Haynes, did you not?
Yes, I did.
All right, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of going to the Historical Society dinner and presenting them with a plaque on the McFarland Ranch as being a part of Galt. I always enjoy going to the Historical Society meetings. They're always a pleasure to be around and talk to. Also, I would like to thank Congressman Lundgren for the money, the revenue the money that he's provided or been able to obtain for the city. I think that's a big plus for us, because in these hard times, I think we need every penny we can get. I think that's very important. I think I'm going to keep it short tonight. That's all I have to say at this point. But I look forward to being at the next meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Meredith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to thank everyone that came out to the When the Paycheck Stops town hall meeting in the city. Wanted to again reiterate that you can get that information that we distributed at that meeting by emailing me at my city council email account. It's ameredith@ci.galt.ca.us. I have a Green Print Steering Committee meeting this Friday that I'll be in attendance at. And Veterans Day, I think, is next Wednesday. So I believe we recognize that here in the city of Galt. So city offices will be closed. And I would again ask that on Veterans Day you honor all of the men and women that are abroad, defending the rights that we hold dear to our hearts here in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank the staff and citizens, council members for being here tonight. I appreciate it. And we will adjourn at 9:15. Thank you again.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, Don. Good night, Daryl. I think it's
You can hit the on off on that. Perfect.
Absolutely.
I'm going to turn the tape.
Hey, thanks.
I got
The Delta Green project.
Congratulations. I know.
I'm in the third floor.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Al. I appreciate the kind words.
How much you the super chair in your chest?
It snuck out somewhere. I don't know where it was.
Good.
He can text you.